has quite a bit of profound acquisition reform in it for the Department of War. And having listened to the leaders for the Army, I'm a retired Army, so I stay really plugged into what the Army's doing. Transforming in contact, TIC, and that's what the Army is doing. And they're getting away from programs of record, because programs of record are locking the Army and have locked the Army into programs that just become legacy programs, right? That you continue to try to bolt on technology to it, and then you find yourself on version 15 of the same thing from the 1950s or the 1980s or something like that, right? And so they're going to what's called the characteristics of need, and being able to stay ahead and move fast and iterate technology. They're going to try to achieve to become lighter, mobile, low signature, decentralization, those sorts of things. Department of War, the Secretary of War has directed the Army to be the executive agent for JIATA 401, Joint Interagency Task Force 401, excuse me, which has been talked about already, for counter-UAS, small UAS. And also they are standing up a Task Force X, which is a focus on robotics and manufacturing. Budget line consolidation, having the right to repair on equipment, instead of having like 200 parts to a system, creating things and having industry help them create things that have like 10 parts, right? And when you talk about right to repair, so the Army, which is pretty big, doesn't have to have like field service representatives, FSRs that always have to be there to repair stuff, right? Because the soldiers can't, because they don't have the right to repair, those sorts of things. So the Department of War is moving out and trying to figure out, right? Because if you look at what's happened between Russia and Ukraine, and you look at what has happened between those two countries, right? Russia having the ability to industrialize really, really fast. Their army can't fight, but by God, they can industrialize pretty doggone quickly, right? The superpower that Ukraine has is that they can take the battlefield changes and they come back and they can change how they're doing things, their tactics, and then they can change how they're implementing things and what they're employing, right? So that's their superpower. And so as we think through, and we think through our mission and the security of our homeland, safer, stronger, more prosperous. Now also the Western Hemisphere, right? Safer, just increasing that bubble out, safer, stronger, more prosperous. We think about the technologies that are needed on the border. Is the border networked? Is there persistent surveillance? Are we able to see? Do we have domain awareness of everywhere on the border, right? When we're talking about increasing capacity and capability, do we need the military to support CBP because there's not enough CBP? Right? So I will tell you that just in terms of what the direction that the Army is going, unless it's AI enabled, they're not gonna fool with it, right? And so how do we move out with all the technology that's available? A lot of money being put into DHS at this point, but how do you take advantage of that and all those capabilities? Are the industry days that are taking place, are those actually enough, right, for people to be able to showcase what the latest technology is? Because I think there's things out there that's available now that can help.
Ma'am, I'll take a shot at that. When I first deployed in, I think, 2017 to the border as Task Force 51 commander, we were given the guidance to go and prepare bring in the brigade combat team. Your mission, expect the mission to last between 6 to 9 months so we can buy time for DHS to hire enough CBP assets to be able to deal with the border, with the challenges, and that's the caravans at that time. We haven't left the border. And of course, I don't want to alarm anybody. The United States Army has been on the U.S.-Mexico border since 1829. So this was not, so we've always, this has been part of of the mission set, of course, at much lower levels. But the problem is that the Army had it had capabilities that were generic capabilities that they could be thrown at this because we had a force ready to respond across the nation. The CBP did not. DHS did not have the infrastructure to be able to grow that fast. And so that's one of the challenges. And of course, remember, the threat, the cartels are constantly innovating as well. They're taking lessons learned from Ukraine and the Russian conflict. They're taking, they're taking lessons learned from Israel, from Gaza, and they're applying it to their tactics and techniques. So when money is no object, you have incredible capacity to be able to attract talent and to be able to put technology, and they're not governed or restricted by who they buy equipment from. And so the ability to innovate, the programs of record are not made to be able to adapt as quickly. And so I'm glad that the Department of War is changing the whole outlook on how we go after technology, because the speed of innovation is so, you all are doing so well of innovating and putting products out there. There are Cold War systems to acquiring equipment and the training pipeline are not set up for that. And so we're having to speed up and catch up because the innovation is incredible.
No, absolutely. You bring up a good point. And I know it's been spoken about earlier, like how do we speed up procurement? I think that's one of the main barriers that we have. But from an operator perspective, I mean, we don't get into the whole how are we going to procure. It's like, hey, I need this right now at the speed of mission. I think somebody mentioned the speed of mission. But I'll give you an example of what it looks like in the border environment. I will say about 7 to 10 years ago, one of the biggest threats that we were facing, which was a new threat, was the use of ULAs, ultralight aircraft. And our challenges were like, AMOC could not track them because they're slower and they fly lower. Anyways, there was a problem tracking those, right? And then you had to be right on top of them because the only way to spot them is contact by chance. And then we had a lot of reports from the community that, hey, I see this thing buzzing over my house, et cetera, right? So we started looking at that, coming up with solutions to counter that threat. By the time we got to a solution for that threat, it was obsolete. It was a dinosaur then. Now you got the SUASs, the drones, that have taken the place of those things. So from an operator perspective, you see the threat evolving extremely, extremely fast. No limitations on procurement. No limitations on getting experts to develop these things for their use. So we have to look for ways on how to get that technology at the speed of mission. And as far as technology goes, I think it's been touched on as well, but I think that when industry is developing technologies, right now, General King mentioned that we use the military as a stopgap measure because DHS and CBP were going to build capacity to be able to secure the border. So that was the initial plan. And we're doing that. You've seen all the efforts to increase ICE, to increase Border Patrol. But when it comes to technology, I think autonomy to the extent possible is indispensable nowadays because every good piece of equipment that we deploy out there requires agents and officers to go man that. That's one thing. The other thing, when we're talking about intelligence or sensors, advanced information. If you're telling me that I have a threat 5 feet from me, it's a little bit too late, right? So how do we push, again, the border out from a surveillance perspective and being able to take intelligence and information feeds, from either from host countries or from the military ISR type of stuff. There's I heard one of our leaders in CBP that he was looking at working with Mexico to deploy technology way before the vehicle gets to that officer at the port of entry. So what that does is give that officer all the information that he or she needs to be able to make that split-second enforcement decision by the time that vehicle gets there, versus having the vehicle right in front of you and start running the checks and stuff like that when it's in front of you. So those are the two main things: autonomy to the extent possible, and then advanced information, getting that information to those officers at the speed of mission, as we say.
And we're looking at things relatively innocuous. Traffic cams.
Yep.
Something that simple. There's usually public source. License tag readers. It buys time for that law enforcement officer to make that decision. Traffic patterns going south versus north, and how, the frequency, the time of day. Those becomes patterns of life that we've learned a great deal in the military in fighting counterinsurgency for 20 plus years, that can apply to, and law enforcement officers use these technologies and these tactics across America, and have become very valuable. And so I think there's a great deal of opportunity. And by the way, that saves an agent. So if you can put a passive monitoring system, then that agent can be used somewhere else to actually take enforcement action.
Yep.
So I mentioned the NDAA earlier, and in this NDAA, there are similar authorities that the Department of War has, that DHS will get, called the Safer Skies Act, right? And that, because right now there's only the authorities for the monitoring of drones, not the ability to interdict drones. And I think that'll be really, really key, but there's not a lot of time to, when that authority happens between, like, for example, the World Cup, right? And those activities that'll be starting to happen. So quick reaction time. But I know that the team has already been working on figuring that out. I think at this point we'll go to the audience for questions. And so I know we got some microphones that'll come around, but happy to entertain your questions.
Matthias Kennedy, I want to say first, General, spent time down in your sector, your AOR. I don't think anybody realizes how big that sector is. It's 42 million square miles that you had to take charge of, so that was pretty substantial. But the question I have, I guess, is for industry. I always look at it from S&T standpoint at science and technology. We're always telling them when we're working with industry that we vet the technologies. So hearing from the operators, interoperability is a big thing, right? When the national defense areas were established and operational control was mandated, we had this influx of DOW coming in and bringing them into the wars. Now, it was already happening in small scale, but with all this equipment coming in, can you talk about the importance of interoperability, the opportunities for industry as they look at interoperability, what that means, not just interoperability for DOW to DHS, but also interoperability with equipment that they are developing to have an expansion of that market space for them?
Well, one of the challenges that we have is there's so much flow, and this is a common problem that the Department of War has. As your unit is getting organized to deploy, whether it's overseas, you get this tons of equipment thrown at you. By the way, you have to stop and train and bring train operators and train it and build it back into your systems of operation. How do you use that technology? And so how timely is that technology, and making sure that your training pipeline supports all these technologies. We got to be careful. This is one of the things that I spent a lot of time working with our friends in Sedena, is that our competitors, enemies, or whatever you want to call them, are bringing and throwing technology at our partners south of the border. But they don't come with operations and maintenance and training as part of it. Only the United States brings a whole program that helps train, helps sustain, and maintain the equipment. And so that's why you see when you go to Central and South America, you see all this equipment is just pushed over on the side of the runway, just rotting away because there was no training, no operations, O&M part of it. And so that's what's unique about the United States, is that when we utilize, it comes as a package. And we have to make sure that package is just in time, but it also is supported by an effective training. And then the operators can then use the information generated to actually make decisions.
And in the NDAA also, foreign military sales reforms, right? Because the foreign military sales, all of us commanders complained about that, how doggone slow it was. You know, leaders, you know, my own hemisphere, I mean, they're in the seat for like 4 years, one term, 4 years. And they got to make a difference in like a couple months, not a couple years. And that's what foreign military sales was. But then if you, other countries see how quickly we really can do it from Team USA, right? When you have something like what Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then how quickly we can really get military equipment over there. It's pretty doggone fast. So, you know, speeding that up and being able to get those capabilities. But if you think about it, like-minded democracies, I see what's happening in our world with the axis of aggressors working with each other, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. I mean, I could just take Venezuela, who has equipment from all those countries in Venezuela, right? It's just a hub of activity. Our adversaries right there in one place, so close to our homeland. I've testified on the Hill many times and said the first and second island chain to our homeland has already been set by the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative and everything that they have done with the Belt and Road projects, the billions of dollars of projects. Partnering with our interagency. Team USA is really powerful when it brings all of its instruments of national power together, diplomacy, information, military, and economics. And our investment in the region, in the Western Hemisphere, that's why I'm glad to see it in the National Security Strategy, because we are not, our U.S. companies and our Western companies aren't competing on the critical infrastructure tenders that come out. Why are we not sharing information with Mexico? We have vetted units in all other countries, you know. What about the vetted units in Mexico? I had an organization underneath me in U.S. Southcom called JIATF South. I'm sure all of you have heard about it one time or another, right? We have LNOs from the region, one LNO military from 17 different countries in that organization. We continue to increase the interdictions that are done every year coming from the Caribbean, Central America, South America, because of that trust that we've built with like-minded democracies. To me, what's happening right now is very clear. It's between autocracy and democracy. China is ready and wakes up every day trying to replace us, Team USA, in the rules-based international order. And they are working with the other axis of aggressors to make that happen every single day. And so as we think about our own critical infrastructure here, we look at what's already happened with cyber. We see the technology availability out there. How quickly can we adapt that? And then how quickly can we iterate that is up to us, right? But we got to figure it out, and we got to figure it out really, really fast. We'll take one more question from the audience, please. Oh, my time's up.
Uh-oh.
We're getting the hook.
We're getting the
All right. Everybody, thank you very much. Again, thank you for everything that you do. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good job.
The voice. Okay, can everybody please stay seated? Thank you, and give another round of applause to our panel. Thank you so much. It's going to be a video.
welcome back from lunch, everybody. We are so excited to have a very special keynote speaker for you today. And it is my great privilege to welcome to the stage Kim Lynch. She is the Executive Vice President for Homeland Defense and Intelligence at Oracle Corporation. And she has the honors of introducing our special guest. Let's give Kim a warm welcome.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for being here. It is so great to be among so many of the Homeland Security distinguished leaders and all of you who are working on such a critically important mission for our country. So thank you for being here, and we at Oracle appreciate just being here amongst all of you. I have the distinct honor of introducing this afternoon's keynote speaker. Prior to being named Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, the Honorable Kristi Noem served as South Dakota's 33rd governor and was reelected in 2022 with the largest vote total in South Dakota history. During her time as governor, she strongly supported strict border enforcement and actively backed statewide drug enforcement efforts with connections to cross-border crime. Now, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, she has led a historic effort to secure the southern border, delivering on President Trump's pledge and enhancing security to to all Americans. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome to the stage the Honorable Kristi Noem.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and visit with all of you and wear my tennis shoes. It's been a busy week, and I'm just so grateful to get the chance to discuss our Homeland Security mission, and thank you for all of your partnerships. You have just been absolutely incredible in working with us to fulfill our mission each and every day. For 22 years, know that this organization and its members have facilitated safety of the American people each and every day, and you bring together experts and industry leaders and innovators to do so. I want to give a special thanks to Megan as well for her leadership as the executive director here at the Homeland Security and Defense Forum. She has been here for 13 years and has led with excellence. I also want to thank our acting deputy commissioner, I don't know if he's still here, John Modlin, who's here with CBP, our El Paso sector interim chief patrol agent, Walter Slozer, who also is speaking with you today, maybe already has, and then David as well, who is a former CBP acting commissioner. So grateful for them and their leadership and sharing their expertise and wisdom with all of you. We know that a secure homeland is important not only because of our duty to protect the American people, but also because it's important to ensure that our country remains prosperous. And that's how industry can thrive. I know what it's like to run a business. I'm a farmer and rancher from South Dakota, which you probably know, but also ran several other businesses, including a restaurant, a hunting lodge, and different entities with my family over the years, had the opportunity to serve in Congress and then as governor before I had this position. But that experience all comes to play when it comes to making decisions not only on safety and security, but also how to do so in a way that's accountable to the American taxpayer. So what does the Trump administration under President Trump's leadership want? What do they want to do as far as building partnerships with all of you? What are our goals? And that is what I'm here to discuss with you today. The president wants a country where our citizens can live in peace, where business is booming and opportunity abounds for all of those who play by the rules and follow the law. Today, I'm happy to tell you that President Trump is indeed making America safe again. And I think all of you know that from what you see out on our streets and in our communities today. And he's setting records and breaking records in the process. When President Trump returned to office, one of our top priorities was getting the Department of Homeland Security back on track. As you know, in many situations, our law enforcement officers weren't allowed to do their jobs. People and departments and components under our umbrella were off mission and were not doing the duty that they needed to protect America. For 4 years, the Biden administration pulled DHS and other vital parts of our national security away from our core missions. There's no clearer example than the disastrous open border policies that we saw perpetuated and the invasion which was facilitated by the administration. They brought crime and violence and unprecedented drugs to our communities. Terrorists flooded our country, and countless citizens of adversarial countries waltzed right in over our border. Customs and Border Protection was prevented from doing its job, and worse, they were used many times to funnel aliens in as quick as possible. President Trump has put an end to that, delivering the most secure border in American history. In fact, we've just reached our 7th month of 0 illegal aliens released into our streets. Border crossings are down over 93% year over year. Meanwhile, we're removing illegal aliens who came in under the Biden administration. By the end of this year, 2.5 million illegal aliens will have left our country. That includes over 600,000 that were detained and deported, but 1.9 million virtually have left voluntarily through our communication efforts, through the efforts of facilitating plane tickets, and also $1,000 reimbursements for those who choose to go home voluntarily with the opportunity to come back the right way someday. We have seen an incredible amount of interest in fixing things that have been done wrong in the past. As a result, we have also deterred countless would-be border crossings from entering into our country. DHS, as you know, was founded after 9/11. It was founded to put all of the government agencies and components under one umbrella to fight terrorism and to protect the homeland, and that's exactly what we're doing under President Trump. From January to November of this year, ICE alone arrested and removed over 1,100 known or suspected terrorists that were on our terrorist watch list from January through November. And we're driving that number up every day. That is not counting the individuals that were arrested and encountered by other agencies or departments. President Trump has designated many cartels and gangs, other criminal groups such as foreign terrorist organizations, and designating them under that allows us to go after those killers with more tools than we've ever had before. Through our Homeland Security task forces, which I co-lead alongside our Attorney General Pam Bondi, DHS is working with other departments as well as our international partners and organizations to crack down on cartels and terrorists and other transnational criminal organizations. Since late August, the Homeland Security Task Force has seized more than 461 metric tons of drugs and millions of dollars in assets. Last weekend, CBP under the Homeland Security Task Force stopped nearly 6,000 pounds of meth from coming into the country from San Diego at a port of entry. And that bust would not have happened without the robust security that we have at the border. The bottom line is that we're driving the cartels out of business, and we're ending an industry that profits off of the deaths of millions of Americans. Fentanyl traffic across our border at the southern border is down 56%, and that means that fewer families will have to live with the pain of losing a loved one. We're taking the fight to make America safe again to our enemies, and we're going after them on the high seas as well. We know that our maritime borders need to be defended, and since January, the U.S. Coast Guard has seized enough cocaine to kill 177 million Americans. That's 2/3 of our country's population. By keeping criminals and terrorists and drugs out of our country, we're saving American lives, and we're sparing American families from the pain of illegal alien crime and the heartache of drug addiction and fentanyl poisoning. But we know that our threats are ever evolving, and that's why you're here, and that's why I'm grateful you made it a priority to be here today. We need the improved technology, the intelligence, and the expertise that you bring to the table to stay ahead of our enemies. Thanks to the big, beautiful bill, we have funding that we can make sure that the Department of Homeland Security has what we need to get equipped to prepare for the future. We focus on merit. We're ensuring that we get the best products so that we can keep the American people as safe as possible. And as a result of everything that we've been doing, Americans are getting back to work after years of illegal aliens taking their jobs and flooding our market and using those resources to support other entities besides American families. In the first 8 months of the Biden administration, 88% of new jobs went to foreign-born workers. In the same period under President Trump, 100% of American jobs went to American-born workers. Overall, that's more than 2.5 million Americans that went back into the workforce. Now, as President Trump continues to stand up for our citizens and prosperity on the global stage, he also is working to enforce American tariffs. CBP is responsible for implementing and for enforcing all tariffs, and in January, CBP has collected $1 billion from tariffs, taxes, and fees. And what there actually are and what we are utilizing them for is a negotiating tactic. They serve as a stick, so to be, to bring people to the table. And if a company or a country doesn't like tariffs, a simple solution exists. Invest in America. Meet our demands. Meet our safety protocols. You won't regret it. You won't have any tariffs, and we want to do business with you if we do it the right way. And we will rely on our international relationships and partnerships to keep our country safe. As President Trump's DHS secretary, it's been an absolute honor every single day to get up and to have a purpose of safety and security with the United States and be able to negotiate with our international partners. And since January, we have secured, under the Department of Homeland Security, over 30 international agreements that don't just tighten our security operations, but they also help us with travel, and 17 of those I have personally signed with our international leaders. For example, the biometric data sharing partnership agreements that we've signed with countries in the Western Hemisphere have allowed us to identify threats to the United States and to the region. And these data exchanges have allowed us to better understand the movement of bad actors in the hemisphere and identify them if they come to the United States. Many of you have the technology and the innovation to help us do that even better. And among those that we have identified, we have found nearly 100 known and suspected terrorists just from those agreements that we've signed in the last several months. America is not just a nation that is important, but it also needs to refocus on being the Arctic nation that it is, and we have been since the 1850s. Under President Trump, we're finally acting like it. We need to revamp our shipbuilding industry to revitalize the Coast Guard to help defend it. And last month, I hosted the ministers from Canada and Finland here in DC to continue our icebreaker collaboration effort, our ICE Pact, to strengthen our maritime capabilities, to rebuild America's shipbuilding industry, and to increase our presence in the Arctic region to deter our adversaries. ICE Pact brings together the governments of our countries, our three nations, and it brings private industry in from all three countries. I'm sure you've read and heard about what that really has done to establish the shipping industry here in the United States. For example, the Canadian shipbuilder Davies has pledged over $1 billion to acquire and to modernize the American shipyard assets in Texas for the production of icebreakers right here in the United States. 2 multi-purpose icebreakers are proposed for construction in Finland by the American-owned Bollinger Shipyards and the Canadian-owned company of Seaspan. And working with the Department of Labor, we've deployed millions of dollars in grant programs to create the International Shipbuilding Fellowship, which will fund opportunities for American workers to travel to Finland, to learn from them and their expertise, and to bring that skill set back here at home to deploy. We're doing all of that because the American people deserve the security, they deserve the prosperity, and the future that will come from it. And we need groups like you to make it happen. You are the innovators. You see the challenges that are coming and you help us tackle them with your expertise and your knowledge. You create the solutions that propel us forward, and you don't give up until you do. And that's really what the American spirit is. It's what drives us forward as a nation. We're all doers, and we always have been. As my dad raised us, he told us we don't complain about things, we fix them. And I want to thank you for being here today to help us do exactly that. That's exactly how our ancestors carved 13 colonies out of an unforgiving wilderness. It's how we tamed the Wild West, it's how we founded a nation, and it's how we landed on the moon. That spirit that built America is what made us great, and we need a lot more of it. What do we need from industry? We need your technology. We need your wisdom, your expertise. We need agility. We need you to be quick and fast and deploy. Under the Department of Homeland Security, I have personally reviewed over 9,000 contracts myself to ensure that they're not only the correct contracts we should be signing as far as deploying resources, but to do it quickly and be accountable to taxpayers. Know that when you work with us, that it will meet a need that we have to secure the homeland, but also that it will be something that is appropriate and correct, will be evaluated, and will be deployed at an efficiency to the taxpayer. We have saved over $13 billion at the department just by reviewing and renegotiating contracts, making sure that we're doing the right thing and stretching every single dollar as far as we can to take care of people and to keep them safe. We need your new solutions to meet the threats of tomorrow so that we can build an America where we can protect America and where we can uphold the principles and the law for which it was founded. If you care about all of that, and if you want to be a part of the team and continue to help us, gosh, that would be absolutely fantastic. We need you. We face more threats than we ever have before, not just from enemies that are here within our borders, but from those far beyond. Not just from individuals, but from groups, cartels, terrorists, and even other countries that wish to take America out. Our threats are great, but our people are even greater. And I want to thank you for all that you do to help us to achieve safety, but also hope and happiness here for our families that live here. So I just want to thank you all for being here, for what you do, for loving this country, and may God bless you for partnering with us in new ways each and every day. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to visit with all of you. And with that, I will yield back, but does anybody have any questions? I'll take a couple questions before I leave if you've got some. Yes, ma'am.
Shirley Durbin, Fairline.
Yep.
We have a contract on your desk right now to review the
We're going to negotiate a contract right here today. I love it.
I want to know what we're going to do to improve and quickly put in place AI-enabled surveillance on our borders to improve the false alarm rate, which is very, very high right now and causing a lot of pain to the folks in the field who need this.
Yeah, as you know, we had a plan under Trump 45 to build the wall, and the wall is not just an infrastructure of a primary wall. There's a secondary wall and the technology and surveillance equipment that actually goes with it as well. And as we do that, and this is the largest project that's ever been undertaken, I believe, in the world, to build an infrastructure project of this magnitude. And having the right technology to tell us when there is a threat at that border is important, but also we need to know when it's not a threat and it's something else. So your contract, I don't know the specific one, but I will go look at it. It's not on my desk yet because I just cleared my desk this afternoon. But I will. But that is one thing that we need, is not just technology, but technology that's reliable, that gives us the correct information we need to keep people safe. So we have already done the many contracts to deploy and building of the border, but we are going to continue to allocate those. I think we have put those out faster from the OB3 funding than ever done before as far as the contracting process has gone, but we'll continue to ensure that those systems get installed and online as soon as possible. What else? She shut it down, didn't she? With the yes, sir. Last one, and then I better let you get back to business.
Ma'am, not a question, but I'm not going to speak for everybody here, but for me, just want to say keep it up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, God bless you. You have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.